Hi, Bob Wilkie here with you. And the number one of the top 10 things you can do to create a better culture in the workplace. This one's really important. It's wellness. And wellness is something that we definitely take for granted. We don't understand a lot. People talk about physical wellness. That's one thing. But even physical wellness is very difficult to achieve when there is no mental wellness. And in my experience, as an individual, there's been so many times where I just have not been well. And I didn't know why, and I didn't know what to do about it. And it affected my communication, it affected my work ethic, my focus, the belief in myself. And I had no idea why these things were happening. And we see it in the workplace. And again, I can only speak to our experience, but a lot of people just don't understand things like stress. People are ashamed of being riddled with anxiety or struggling with depression. Some of the major things that we see out there. And what I've learned through my own journey and then being able to help others on theirs is that when we acquire a new skill set, it's amazing how much different we can feel and how well we can become in a relatively short period of time. And what we've really noticed is that when we do it as a group, oh my goodness, does that change things? Because it normalizes the conversations. You know what? I'm dealing with a lot of stress. Home is just really unbalanced right now. And I can let my manager know that. So he doesn't have to look at my performance and go, well, Bob's really not doing well. I think we might have to consider letting him go, because we've normalized the conversation, because I don't feel any shame or guilt around it. It's just something that I have to overcome and deal with. I can let him know, and I can go and say, hey, Bill, things aren't good right now. I'm really struggling with some things. It's affecting my focus, and I know it's affecting my work. I'm really going to do some extra work on figuring out how to solve this. And if there's any resources out there, I'd really appreciate it. In order to become well, we all have to understand what wellness is, and that we all deal with different things. A lot of times we'll see somebody that's struggling with stress or anxiety or depression, and it's no different than, somebody that has to deal with a new medical issue, maybe a diabetic or, something like that, where you have to do things differently now. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, and there's a stigma around mental health, is that there's shame and guilt attached to it because of our conditioning and the environments and the judgment of others. And it's just something that you got to overcome. It's a skill set that you have to acquire. How do I manage my anxiety now? I got to know when I'm going to be in a big crowd. I've got to make sure that I get a good night's rest. I got to make sure that I'm doing some sort of breathing exercises before I go into those situations. And then I also, really have to know when it's time for me to get out, when I've had enough. So if I go to a concert, I got a big speaking gig, there's only so much that I can manage, and I start to feel it coming, and I know that I got to wrap things up, and I know that I have to be able to go and breathe again and reset. So it's a management skill, and sometimes they require medications and more insight than what I'm putting out here. But it all starts with just raising your hand and saying, what, I don't feel well, and I don't know what to do. Can you help me? And that is the most courageous thing that anybody can do. People always call, and you can feel the shame and you can feel the guilt and just that, oh my God, they're going to judge me for this. But then the minute, that we get into the conversation, it's like, oh yeah, I know exactly how you're feeling. I felt like that. And here's what I do to manage myself. Let's get you, some support. Let's get you some tools. Let's get you some education. The relief on that other person is night and day. And oftentimes there'll be a conversation in the next 24 hours, and I've never slept so much better. It feels really good. Wellness is the most important thing. And I'd like to talk a little bit more about it in the next video. But if you're out there and you're struggling and you feel like you can't raise your hand, there is somebody that can help you. And you really have to take that first step. And, for me, sometimes I had to take a second step because I didn't get the answers I wanted with the first one. But I finally became important enough to figure out and to solve so that I could become well. And when that happened, boy, there's a lot of the things that we're going to talk about through these series of videos that you really start to notice. But your wellness is the most important thing. And there's no way that you can support anybody else if you're not well. No matter how hard you want to try, it's just they're not going to get the full you. So putting yourself first when you're not feeling well is the most important step. I'll be back with another video where we're going to talk about wellness a little bit more because it's such a big topic. But I hope that helps. And if we could help in any way, go to igotmine.ca and schedule a free 30-minute consultation.